Nike didn't just drop a commercial on Christmas Day, it sent a message. Two of the WNBA's biggest stars both got Nike ads this year. On paper, that sounds equal. But when you actually look closer, the difference is impossible to ignore. One campaign shut down an entire neighborhood, stacked celebrity cameos, and tied itself to basketball history. The other felt quiet, simple, almost forgettable. And that's where the debate starts. Because this isn't about talent, it's not about stats, trophies, or MVPs. It's about who Nike is betting on to carry the future. The timing wasn't random, the scale wasn't accidental, and the symbolism very intentional. Some fans see smart business, others see clear favoritism. Either way, once you notice the gap, you can't unsee it. The real question is simple. Did Nike make a visionary move, or create a divide that won't fade anytime soon? Section 1. The Christmas Day pattern that raised eyebrows. Christmas Day is not just another date on Nike's calendar. It's a statement day. A day the brand reserves for moments that are meant to last longer than the holiday itself. When Nike chooses Christmas, it's usually because they're not just selling a product, they're planting a flag. That's why this year caught so many people off guard. On December 25th, while most fans were focused on NFL games, NBA matchups, and holiday routines, Nike quietly dropped a Caitlin Clark commercial into the biggest viewing windows possible. Netflix, ESPN, ABC, Prime Placement, Maximum Eyes. And for casual viewers, it might have felt like just another ad. But for anyone who knows Nike's history, the timing raised eyebrows immediately. Because Nike doesn't do coincidences like this. Exactly 40 years earlier, on Christmas Day 1985, Nike introduced Michael Jordan to the world in a way that would reshape sports culture forever. That first Christmas commercial wasn't loud or flashy by today's standards, but it was intentional. It marked the beginning of a relationship that turned into the most powerful athlete-brand partnership of all time. So when Caitlin Clark's campaign landed on the exact same date, 4 decades later, people noticed. Not because Nike said anything out loud, but because they didn't have to. Brands like Nike speak through timing, scale, and silence. And this placement said more than any press release ever could. It suggested that this wasn't just about celebrating a great rookie season or riding a viral moment. It felt bigger, longer term. Like Nike was positioning Clark not just as a star of the moment, but as a cornerstone of what comes next. What made it even more striking was how clean and confident the rollout felt. No over-explaining, no forced hype, just presence. The kind that assumes attention rather than begging for it. That alone separated this from the usual athlete commercials that come and go without leaving a mark. And here's the thing, this wasn't about basketball fans only. Christmas Day commercials are designed for everyone. Families, casual viewers, people who may not follow the WNBA closely at all. Nike chose this moment to introduce Caitlin Clark to the widest possible audience, under the brightest possible lights. But that decision also set the stage for an uncomfortable comparison. Because once people realized when this ad aired, the next question became impossible to ignore. If Nike treated this moment as historic, who else didn't get the same moment? And that's where the story really begins. On the surface, Nike's message looked clean and balanced. 2 of the WNBA's biggest names, 2 Nike commercials, 2 moments meant to celebrate women's basketball. But the deeper fans looked, the more uneven the picture became. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't the only elite player to receive a Nike ad this season. A'ja Wilson did too. And that's where the conversation shifted. A'ja Wilson isn't just another star. She's a multiple-time MVP, a champion, one of the most dominant forces the league has ever seen. Her resume speaks louder than hype ever could. So naturally, when fans heard she also had a Nike commercial, the expectation was simple: equal respect, equal effort. But when the 2 ads played back-to-back, The contrast felt jarring. Caitlin Clark's campaign unfolded like a story. Layers, callbacks, faces from her real life. A sense that every frame had been planned weeks, even months in advance. It didn't feel rushed. It felt built. Aja Wilson's spot, by comparison, felt smaller, shorter, simpler. A familiar nursery rhyme flipped with her name inserted. Clean, safe. But once it ended, there was no phrase sticking in your head. No idea begging to be repeated. No moment pulling you back in. And this wasn't about performance on the court. No one watching these commercials would argue Aja hasn't earned more. That's what made the difference so uncomfortable. Because brands don't accidentally invest differently. They choose where to go big and where to hold back. Production scale, creative depth, and rollout timing are decisions, not oversights. For some fans, this was just marketing. For others, it felt like a quiet hierarchy being revealed in real time. Two superstars, same league, same brand, very different spotlight. And once that realization set in, the question stopped being about commercials altogether. It became about something deeper, how value is measured when attention, money, and future potential collide. And that's when people started looking closer at why one campaign felt built to last, and the other felt like it was designed to pass. Caitlin Clark's commercial didn't feel like a highlight reel. It felt like a memory. It opens in a driveway, not an arena, not a packed gym, not under bright lights. A quiet, ordinary space. The kind of place where no one is watching and that detail matters. Because that driveway wasn't chosen for aesthetics. It was chosen for meaning. It's where the story started. Hours of shots. Misses no one saw. Confidence built long before cameras showed up. Then the layers begin to stack. Familiar faces appear, but none of them feel random. Travis and Jason Kels don't show up for clout. They're tied to her real-world rise and public presence. Michael Chi fits because she's already stepped onto the SNL stage herself. Even her coaches, past and present, are woven in. Not as props, but as proof that this path didn't happen overnight. Every moment feels connected, lived in, intentional. And then there's the phrase anchoring it all: from anywhere. Simple, repeatable, instantly shareable. You don't have to explain it, you just get it. Fans recreating it online wasn't an accident. That's what happens when a campaign is designed to escape the screen. What really separates this ad, though, is scale. Entire residential blocks shut down. Production crews lining the street. Lighting rigs. Cameras. Coordination that doesn't happen unless a brand is fully locked in. This wasn't filmed between meetings. It was built. That kind of effort sends a signal without saying a word. It tells you Nike wasn't just celebrating a season. They were building an identity, something meant to travel, evolve, and live beyond a single air date. The kind of campaign that becomes shorthand for an athlete's entire brand. And that's why the contrast hits so hard. Because once you see how much thought went into this rollout, it becomes impossible not to ask why the same care didn't show up everywhere else. And that question pulls us straight into the most uncomfortable part of the comparison: what the other campaign didn't do. Aja Wilson's commercial wasn't bad. That's what made the comparison so uncomfortable. It was clean, polished, professional. A familiar nursery rhyme lightly adjusted, her name repeated, basketball visuals layered in. It did its job, it aired, it checked the box, and then it was over. There was no phrase begging to be repeated, no idea designed to live outside the screen, no moment that made you stop and think, this is bigger than an ad. And that absence stood out not because Aja lacked anything, but because her resume demanded more. She's earned more. Multiple MVPs, championships, years of dominance. This wasn't a player who needed an introduction. She deserved a statement. That's why the contrast didn't feel creative. It felt strategic. Nike didn't miss here. They chose. Brands always do. Budget, time, and risk don't spread themselves evenly by accident. When one campaign feels layered and long-term, and another feels contained and temporary, it reveals how value is being projected, not how talent is being judged. And to be clear, this wasn't about disrespecting A'ja Wilson as an athlete. Fans know her greatness. The issue was about investment. One campaign was built to travel, the other was built to exist. Once that realization set in, the conversation shifted again. This stopped being about two commercials and became about what Nike was signaling behind the scenes. Because when creative effort becomes visibly unequal, it quietly creates a hierarchy, whether a brand intends to or not. And that's when people started looking past the ads and straight at the calendar. Once people noticed the difference in effort, the timing suddenly mattered even more. Caitlin Clark's commercial didn't just air during the holidays. It aired on Christmas Day, the same date Nike used in 1985 to introduce Michael Jordan to the world. That original commercial didn't just sell shoes, it launched a legacy. 40 years later, Nike chose that exact day again. That wasn't nostalgia, that was messaging. Nike is famous for treating dates like symbols. They don't reuse moments tied to history unless they believe the story deserves the weight. By placing Clark's campaign on that anniversary, Nike wasn't calling her the next Jordan, but they were clearly placing her inside that lineage of long-term bets. The message wasn't subtle. This athlete matters to our future. And that's what made the contrast sharper. When one player is positioned inside a historical echo and another isn't, fans don't need explanation. They read between the lines. But this bold move came with risk. Because while the commercial was everywhere, Netflix, ESPN, ABC, there was one thing missing. No signature shoe. No product fans could immediately buy into. Just momentum building with nowhere to land. That gap turned hype into anticipation and pressure. Nike wasn't just celebrating Caitlin Clark. They were staking months of attention on a promise still waiting to be fulfilled. And that choice raised the biggest question yet. What happens if the payoff doesn't match the signal? Because once you tie someone to history, there's no quiet way back. Here, where the story gets complicated. Caitlin Clark's campaign exploded exactly the way Nike hoped it would. The phrase caught on, clips spread. Fans started recreating shots from driveways, parking lots, sidewalks, all echoing the same idea. The momentum felt real, organic, cultural. But when people went looking for the product behind the moment, it wasn't there. No signature shoe, no flagship release. Nothing sitting on shelves that fully matched the size of the push. Reports suggest Clark's signature shoe isn't expected until late April or early May, leaving a 4 to 5 month gap between peak attention and actual availability. That's a dangerous window. In sports marketing, hype is fragile. If it doesn't convert, it cools. Nike did roll out some merchandise alongside the campaign, so this wasn't a total misstep. But everyone knows where the real impact lives. Signature shoes define legacies. That's where culture and money collide. So why take the risk? Because this didn't feel like a short-term play. It felt like Nike was willing to delay the payoff in exchange for something bigger, positioning. By launching the story first and the product later, Nike wasn't asking fans to buy immediately. They were asking them to believe. And belief lasts longer than impulse. But this strategy also sharpened the contrast with A'ja Wilson even more. Her frustration around signature shoe timing has been public, understandably so. She earned that moment years ago. Yet instead of matching Clark's creative depth, Nike appeared to respond with something quieter, faster, more contained. That difference wasn't about personality or performance. It was about projection. Nike seemed to be saying, one athlete is being built as a future pillar, the other is being managed as a current asset. That distinction matters not just for these two players, but for how the entire league is viewed. Because when a brand as powerful as Nike makes its priorities visible, everyone notices. other athletes, other companies, fans who are just learning how this side of the business works. And once those priorities are exposed, they don't disappear. They linger, they shape conversations, they influence negotiations, they quietly redefine who gets patience and who gets urgency. At this point, the question is whether the campaign worked. It clearly did. The real question is whether Nike's gamble pays off, and what happens if it doesn't. Because when a brand goes all in on one future, it's also choosing what and who it's willing to leave waiting. By this point, the commercials stopped being the main story. What people were really reacting to was the signal behind them. Nike didn't just market two athletes differently. It revealed how modern value in women's basketball is being calculated, not purely by championships, not only by dominance, but by visibility, reach, and who can pull the next generation into the sport. That's the uncomfortable truth. Caitlin Clark represents momentum, viral clips, sold-out arenas, casual fans tuning in for the first time. Nike didn't create that wave, but they clearly decided to ride it harder than anything else in the WNBA right now. And when a brand like Nike commits at that level, it doesn't stay contained to one campaign. Other companies notice, other athletes notice. Future endorsement deals start shifting. Creative expectations change. Players begin asking not just if they'll get a deal, but how much belief the brand is willing to show publicly. Because belief shows up in budgets, timelines, and patience. That's where the tension lives. Nike's public messaging says it's committed to growing women's basketball as a whole, but actions speak louder than statements. When one player receives a long-term, culture-building rollout and another receives something that feels temporary, fans start connecting dots, whether the brand wants them to or not. This doesn't mean Nike is wrong. From a business perspective, the strategy makes sense. Companies invest where they expect returns. They don't spread resources evenly out of fairness. They place bets. But the WNBA isn't just a market, it's a community. And communities feel imbalance quickly. Once fans recognize a hierarchy, they begin watching every future rollout through that lens. Every new commercial, every delayed shoe, every quiet launch will be compared back to this moment. That's the real consequence. Nike didn't just elevate Caitlin Clark. They created a reference point, one that will follow the league for years. If Clark's signature shoe launches and delivers at the level Nike expects, this strategy will be praised as visionary. If it falls short, the same decision will be criticized as reckless favoritism. Either way, the line has been drawn. And that's why this story matters beyond ads and slogans. It reveals how power, attention, and money actually move behind the scenes. It shows how future stars are chosen, not declared, but built. The WNBA is entering a new era. Bigger audiences, bigger deals, bigger expectations. And moments like this are how we learn who the industry believes will carry it forward, and who it's willing to ask to wait. This is how the story really ends, not with a commercial, but with a question that won't go away. Nike didn't explain its strategy. It didn't need to, it showed it. Through timing, through scale, through creative effort, through who received patience and who received urgency. When one athlete is positioned inside history and another is handled like an obligation, fans don't need insiders or leaks to understand what's happening. The message is visible. And that's what makes this moment so important. This was never about disrespecting greatness. A'ja Wilson's legacy is secure. Her dominance doesn't disappear because of one ad. Caitlin Clark's rise doesn't invalidate anyone else's career. But branding doesn't operate on fairness, it operates on projection. On who can move culture, not just win games. Nike made a massive bet, not quietly, publicly. If Caitlin Clark's signature shoe launches and delivers, This moment will be remembered as the start of a new era, the point where women's basketball crossed into true mainstream power. But if the hype fades or the rollout stumbles, this same decision will be replayed as a warning about putting too much weight on one future. Either way, the league has changed. Fans are watching closer now. Athletes are paying attention. Brands are recalibrating how they show belief. Once that curtain gets pulled back, it never fully closes again. Because commercials don't just sell products, they reveal priorities. And Nike made its priorities clear. The only thing left unanswered is whether this bet reshapes women's basketball for the next decade, or becomes the moment everyone points back to and says, "This is where the divide became impossible to ignore."